Good morning and welcome to our yoga practice that has an unusual focus in that the first part of it are the asanas or the poses for bone density. And the second part of it is more of a flow designed to move the lymph fluid through the body and to get a little cardio lift as well. So it's a balance between those two things. And for today's practice, what could be helpful for you is a couple blocks, a yoga strap, and something to sit up on like a folded blanket or a bolster. So let's come to a comfortable seat. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. And before we begin, I just want to express our gratitude for your support and your donations to these online classes. We are very grateful. So thank you for that. So as we come to our comfortable seat, think about the pelvis sinking and the spine being nice and long, the shoulders relaxing with the palms down. Let's either gaze down or close our eyes so we can just arrive a little more completely on our yoga mat. And begin once you arrive to notice your breath. Inhale through your nose, your sinuses allow. I know it's allergy season. And as we exhale, draw your belly in a little bit to fully, completely exhale that breath until you feel somewhat empty. And then again, inhale. And exhale. And then let's add a little movement to this very same flow of the breath. So open your eyes if they were closed. And let's reach the fingers out towards the sides. And if they don't reach the floor, it's okay. Just reach in that direction. And let's turn the palms up. And on the inhale, let's just let the hands float a little bit to the shoulders or slightly higher. And then when we exhale, palms down and let the fingertips lightly touch. And this is just a sweet way to connect movement with breath. So over time, we might be moving at a little bit different tempo from one another, but we just recognize we're all unique and wonderful in our own way. So let's inhale up, breathe this new day, and exhale, release. Beautiful. So we'll do a little upper back movement. Keep your arms up, palms facing, thumbs up, and exhale, rotate your heart without your arms doing much other than coming along for the ride. So this creates a little gentle spiral of your spine. Pretty much focused on your thoracic spine and keep nice and long, hips thinking, head floating, and then back to center, and then to the other side. And exhale. And one more like that. This time, inhale, reach your left fingers in front, your right fingers behind. Prop yourself up, rotate your heart gently. Stay for a few moments. And on the inhale, back to center. And on the exhale, to the left. And let's hold this for a moment. So in our bone density practice, we seek movements where the shoulders stay nice and broad and we're not clenching. So we pay special attention to the elongation of the spine in our movements. And then let's return. So let's go ahead and come onto our backs for a few movements, a few warm-ups for the hips as well. So go ahead and come on down and have a yoga strap and one block perhaps at the ready. We'll see how we go with this time-wise. All right, so come into constructive rest pose. And I know many of you are familiar with this, with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, shoulders broad, back of the hands to the floor, palms up. And just take a moment to transition and to arrive here and to take another nice, full, easy breath into the body. So on the inhale and the exhale. So we are in a relatively neutral spine position here, the back of the pelvis nice and broad. So as you press down through your left foot a little, bring your hands to your low belly, slightly resting, and could you lift your right foot without tipping your pelvis? So what that means is the back of your pelvis stays adhered to your yoga mat. So just lift, pressing your belly down without tipping your pelvis. And then bring your knee in a little closer if you like, and find your yoga strap for the bottom of your right foot. All right, shimmy it to the ball of the foot and make the loops around your hand if you like doing that. Lower your right leg a little away from you just until you sense that the back of your pelvis again is nice and broad. Your right hip is connecting to the floor, and bend your right knee and then bring your toes back towards you without hiking that hip, which will transition into more hamstring action here, which we're seeking in this Supta Padangusthasana big toe pose. And then we have options here. We could stay right here with our left knee bent and our left foot on the floor, or we could also extend our left leg. Now, when you extend your left leg, notice if that pulls your pelvis forward and you're slightly overarching here. Lift your left knee and press your belly down again. So the sensation is if our legs are spokes and the low back is the hub of the wheel, nice and centered, and the legs extending out. And in these asanas for bone density, we linger a little longer. So again, softness to the knees, nice easy breath flowing through the body. So in the past, we've had other options here, and if you'd like to join in for a couple times, you could. So when you inhale, float your left leg up just a few inches. And when you exhale, heel tap. Just control that easy movement. So again, inhale, float. I always feel like this is doing sit-ups for the hip flexor of the left leg. Exhale, heel tap. And we'll do one more like that. Inhale, float up. And exhale, heel tap. So I like doing this because it also gives us something to focus on all the while the right leg is getting the extension and the foot is pressing into the strap. All right. So it's sort of like a dual action. So let's slide the left foot up alongside the right foot in the strap, and then slip your right foot down to the floor. Bend your left knee, get the strap just so across the ball of the foot. I like to lower the left leg a little away from me so I can sense that the back of the pelvis is broad and grounded. Bend your knee a little, bring your toes back slightly, and then extend your right leg, if you like. So these are all options, one not better than the other. Lift your right knee, relax your shoulders, kind of tuck your shoulder blades in a little. And if you like, just linger here, breathing nice and easy, or also do the little leg lifts. So when you're ready, inhale, flex both feet, lift your right leg slightly. Exhale, heel tap. And again, inhale. Both knees have a little micro bend to them as we go. Exhale, heel tap. Last one. Inhale, float up. Exhale, heel tap. And now slide your left heel towards you. Slip your right foot again alongside your left, so both feet are up in the strap. And then we'll slide the feet into a V formation along the strap. And as we go, we'll initiate an external rotation of the thighs so that your toes turn out and your heels are in. And then just keep sliding until you find that just right place for you. Bend your knees a little, so you feel just a little bit of an inner thigh kind of stretch. So again, it's important at this place that the pelvis isn't tipping towards us and we're not resting on our back waistline. If that's the case, it's okay. We know how to remedy that. Descend, tip your pelvis to neutral, bend your knees a little. And if you're not sure what that is in your body, if you sway a little side to side, you'll notice what part of your body is connecting to your yoga mat. And we're seeking the place where it's the back of your pelvis, your sacrum, etc. And relax your shoulders. Take a look at your feet. One is not closer to you than the other. And another deep breath. So you could go a little wider if you like, if you feel like that's available. Or if you went too far, just slide your feet back in. So I love doing asanas like this, where if we were to sit up, it'd be a seated wide-legged forward fold. If we were to tip up all the way onto our feet, we'd be in another standing wide-legged forward fold. But now we have the floor to give us a little feedback about that neutral, elongated spine. So let's slide the feet up. Hug the knees in. Take your feet to the floor. Let's move the strap away and get it out of the way so we don't get all tripped up on it. All right. Let's continue right along, but first revisit your constructive rest pose. Take a breath, inhale and exhale. Excuse me, and then let's reach up through the right heel and flex that right foot so the toes point to the wall behind us. Rotate your right thigh, your femur bone, so your toes angle out now and your heel angles in. And bend your right knee and bring your right ankle bone all the way across. You know this one. This is eye of the needle pose. It also has other names too, but that's what I call it. Align your left heel with your left hip. With your fingertips lightly touching your right thigh. Just rotate it open a little bit more. So this is one of those movements where we have many, many opportunities to explore in different ways. And I like to call it the bus stops. So the first bus stop is right here, with your foot on the floor. And with that slight external rotation of your right thigh, pelvis nice and broad. But you might decide you want to try something a little bit different, and you could. You could take your block beneath your foot. Or you might bring your knee up. So this is, again, where we have some more options, and always pause where you feel it's the right place for you today. Remember to keep your foot flexed to protect your knee a little bit. Bring your left knee over so it aligns with your left shoulder. And then if you like, you could extend your left leg. This would be if we were standing up on our left foot, standing pigeon pose. So one of the people I study with, in her sequence, also offers up a variation of pigeon pose. So if you'd like to explore that with me, kind of cradle your right leg, hold on to your right foot with your left hand, and then bend your left knee and bring your left foot to the floor. You're still holding on to your right thigh, and then extend your left leg onto the floor. Now, once you get here, you could bring your right knee in a little more to center if you like, but notice how that resonates deep in your hip. You could also keep it kind of out by your armpit. Make sure that right foot is flexed. So this is sort of an upside down pigeon pose, if you know it. And there's not so much weight on the head of the femur bone in this variation, but we're still getting that nice pull of all the muscles around the hip, which initiates the bone density response in the body. All right, so let's reverse all this. If you've gone all the way to the end of the bus line, let's come back by sliding the heel and then lifting the left foot. Release your left foot to the floor, and we'll all join up here. Some people may have decided to stay here the whole time, which is lovely. But we'll all meet up here and we'll reach up with our right heel, rotate the right thigh, reach up and point your toes. Let's do some movement for just the ankle joint by making little circles. And then let's do a little point and flex. And the next time you point, fingertips on your low belly, let's do a little circle with the whole leg. So the left knee is in stillness, the left hip is in stillness, the pelvis isn't moving. We're just doing about a dinner plate circle with the big toe and go both directions. Pause, circle right into center. Bend your right knee, bring your right foot to the floor, and lengthen your right leg long for a moment. Let it relax. So in some of the studies, because I'm always exploring, some of the studies recommend, after that deep pull, to let that part of the body relax for a couple moments. I think I got that from the Harvard Medical Journal or something. I felt like, well, that sounds legit. So just regardless, it still feels pretty nice. All right, and let's go to the other side. So bend your right knee, bring your right foot to the floor. We're back in our constructive rest pose. But before we go to the other side, let's push down with both feet. Float your hips off the floor, what I like to call a mini bridge. So it's just like that hand can sweep here. We start to elongate the spine, drawing the sits bones towards the calf, squeezing the glutes just a little. So it's not a super high bridge, but we're still creating that elongation on either side of the spine as we float the hips up just ever so slightly. And then release, come back down. Constructive rest. Now push down with your right foot. This is how we started. Push down with your right foot. Lift your left without your pelvis tipping, pressing your belly towards your back. Bring your knee in for a minute and then reach up through your left heel. Excellent. Toes flexed. We know this one. Rotate your left thigh, toes out, and then bend your knee and bring your ankle bone all the way across. So I like to think about the heels just kind of hanging off the edge here. Foot remains flexed the whole while. Pause and ponder. Where do we want to go from here today? Because it's always different depending on what's been going on the day before. All right, so again, remembering that we can stay here and maybe just do a little sway. Or we could lift the foot for a block, or we could just bring the knee up in a way that works for us. But whatever way you like to hold on, try to do it without hunching your shoulders. So I know a lot of people like to do this, and then the shoulders are hunched, and that's one thing we're trying to get away from in our bone density practice. So whatever way you can hold, love it. And then if you like, there's still a slight external rotation of your left thigh. I'm going to say like a quarter of an inch even, setting the head of the femur bone a little deeper in the hip socket. And then right here is a beautiful place to linger or extend up through your right leg. Make sure you're not pushing into your knee, that your ankle's a little bit lower onto the thigh if you're going in this direction. If you're going into that inside out, upside down pigeon pose, then we'll keep the left thigh in close, but release the right foot to the floor. Remember to keep that left foot flexed to protect your knee, and then extend your right leg. And at this point, you can kind of play a little bit with bringing your left knee out a little more towards your armpit. Or if you bring it across a little bit, that will change the sensations. So find the just right place for you for another deep breath. Slide your right heel back towards you. Lift your right foot just for a brief visit. And then let's slowly release. The left ankle staying attached to the right thigh as we release the right foot to the floor. Now let's lift up the left heel, rotate the leg, point your toes, and let's do the circles for the ankle first, so the rest of the leg is not moving in that way. And a couple more points and flexes. And then a point and a circle for the whole leg. And the right foot isn't wonking out to the side. Everything else is just staying pretty still as we isolate this movement. Go both directions. And then bend your left knee, bring your left foot to the floor, and lengthen your left leg and let it just relax for a moment. Take a couple breaths. And when you're ready, bend your left knee, bring your left foot to the floor. So we'll finish off the supine part of our practice with a bridge before we go on to hands and knees and then to our belly down back bends. So if you like using the block between the thighs, I like it.
It helps keep the knees aligned with the hips, etc. And our feet can give us a lot of feedback about keeping that sense of pressing straight down, which will keep the alignment because everything is connected. So let's just have the back of the hands to the floor with the palms up and kind of tuck your shoulder blades in. Connect with your feet, spread your toes, push down with your feet as you scoop your hips up off the floor and come up only about as high as your shoulder blades. And then invite the glutes in to help you lift a little higher. So we're just going to squeeze the glutes a little to lift. Draw your knees a little forward. And again, think elongation of your spine, drawing your tailbone, drawing your sits bones towards your calves, pressing evenly through the feet. Neck is neutral, shoulders are broad. We can feel those glutes working a little bit for us. And then exhale, lower. Nice and slow. Lift your heels, push with your toes, bring your knees up for a hug. All right, let's take the block to the side. With your arms long, fingertips on your knees, exhale the knees in. Just to get, again, that even sort of length on the side of the spine, take a breath. Move your knees away, bring one foot at a time to the floor. Roll to your side and create your table pose. Now, for some people, they like a little cushion under their knees, and some people do not. So again, all is well in whatever way you like to navigate your yoga journey. And so from here, we'll make our way down. I gotta get my ponytail in first. All right, so we'll make our way down in various ways. So let's come onto our hands and knees, spread your fingers, lift your belly, create a little nice sturdy table, and then we can extend one leg behind us with the toes tucked under, square up your hips, lift your belly, press your fingers evenly into the floor. Now, I feel like this is a pretty challenging pose in that we don't have the floor anymore to give us the feedback if our spine is neutral. So we begin to trust that we know what that is. When you lift your left heel, perhaps notice the tendency to spill the belly and to tip your pelvis. So we want to lift the belly instead, rotate the thigh, crown of the head forward, just reaching out through the heel, again, creating elongation through the spine. And then let's toe touch the left foot, bring the knee in, and pull your hips back without changing your hand position, just a little stretch out for the low back. And then come back up to your table. And we'll extend out now through the other leg, the right leg, toes tucked under. And oftentimes when we do this, the right hip hikes up. So try to get the sense of level across the back of your pelvis. Lift your belly. The head is neither hanging or dropping back. Nice sense of elongation through the crown of your head all the way down your spine. And then start to play with floating your right heel, toes pointing straight down. You don't have to go very high. Lift your belly. Crown of the head is forward. Ribs lift up a little too. So your front body is now supporting your back body in its length and extension. And then toe touch. Bring your knee back in. And one more time, pull back through your hips just a little. So two options, or I'm sure there's many, many more, but I'd like to give you a few options. When you come back up, we're going into Sphinx pose. So you can bring your forearms down and slide your knees back and come right onto your belly. If you feel you'd like to have a little bit more before you come down, walk your knees back. Bring your shoulders over your wrists so you're no longer in table anymore. And as you tuck your toes under, this is the knee down plank. We just need to make sure that the belly's not hanging here. Lift it up. And then if you want a full plank, just lift your knees. just for a brief visit. And then knees down again, elbows in towards the ribs. Press a little bit more into the base of your thumb. As you exhale slowly, bring your heart to the floor, your chin to the floor, and then lengthen onto your belly. Onto the top of your feet, slide your forearms through, Sphinx pose. So last week, I believe I offered an option here that I know some people like to have a rolled blanket beneath their rib cage. Your forearms are still on the floor and the low belly still on your mat, but you have a little support at mid-back. If this works for you, it's really a nice addition. So you could just give it a try and see. All right. So let's release the shoulders down the back. Lift your belly. Press into your upper thighs. So belly down, back bends. This is a counter pose for the rounding of the shoulders we might find ourselves in throughout the day. And then a fun addition, if you want to add to this, is to point your toes and to float both feet up just so your upper thighs are still pressing into the floor. So you're not going very high. Lift your belly. And you might notice at this point your glutes are kicking in, reaching through your toes, gently drawing through your heart. Lift your belly. Another deep breath. Exhale, lower. Now take your hands back by your hips nice and wide. Same action for the legs. Float your feet, but keep your upper thighs pressing down. And then float your upper back, your shoulders. Reach your fingers towards your toes. Shalabhasana locust pose. Your head is neither hanging again or dropping on your back. Stay for another breath. Bring your hands down beneath your shoulders. Elbows in. Release your feet. Come on down. Let your forehead touch for a moment. Tuck your toes under. Inhale, curl up through a cobra. Exhale back into a bit of a child's pose. The option here, keep your knees right out of your hips and just stack your fist and lower your forehead. Or you can go a little deeper. But again, let's stack the fist, open the elbows, rest your forehead. So again, we seek the place, even in our child's pose, where we have a sense of broadness across the upper back and not so much rounding as we might. So let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. Oftentimes, you see this action. The rounding of the upper back. So again, when we move and transition to supporting the head in this way, then we kind of release that tendency to round the upper back. So I'm going to sit up so I can talk to you. And from here, we'll transition to downward facing dog. And if that's not a pose for you, for whatever reason, you could do a dolphin. So it's down dog on your forearms. Or you can make your way up slowly through a low lunge to a forward fold because we're going to meet you there. All right, so down doggers. Bring your hands to the floor and spread your fingers. Tuck your toes under. Lift your hips, press back. You take time to micro move and adjust. Bend your knees a little, swoop that tail up, push off the floor with all of your knuckles. Lift your belly. So sometimes when I'm here, I like to transition into what I like to call pike. So from down dog, come forward. You're not exactly in plank because your tailbone's sticking up there like a pike. And then exhale, press back, your ears aligned with your upper arms. And come forward again into a little bit of pike. Lift your belly. And then last one, downward facing dog if you like. Bend one knee and the other, kind of walk your dog by dropping the opposite heel. And then switch. And when you're ready, let's walk the feet towards the hands. And then maybe the hands towards the feet. Bend your knees deeply, so deeply that maybe your belly is resting on your thighs. Your hands are beneath your shoulders, nice and broad across your chest. Wiggle your hands into your hip creases. Push down with your feet, rise up. Go slow. Give your head and your heart time, especially if you've been in down dog. All the blood is going to rush to your head and you might feel a little dizzy. So let's come to stand. So reflect back to the beginning of our practice when all we did was connect to the breath by floating our arms up and down. So let's do that standing. When we soften the knees and sink a little more into the heels, inhale, float up, and exhale down. And again, inhale up, and exhale down. The next one will be an option to lift your heels as you float your palms. So inhale up. Keep breathing. Spread your toes a little. Hollow out your belly. And then maybe you want to teeter like that. It's okay. Exhale your heels down. And when your heels come down, lift all of your toes. Spread your toes. Release your feet to the floor. Shoulder roll. All right, so let's take a wide stance. Remember how when we were laying on our backs, we had the strap across the bottom of the feet? Come to that same distance. And let's rotate the right leg so the toes angle this way and pull back with your left heel. So we have about a heel to heel alignment. And then we'll bend the front knee and let the hand rest ever so lightly so we're not collapsing. Even here, we want to be mindful about the ribs on this side not crunching down. We want to elongate even on this side body. And then rotate your ribs a little, shoulder over shoulder. Scoop that right hip under. And we'll do a little bit of a sweetness from extended side angle to warrior two. And then our balance pose today will be a floating lunge. So let's float this arm up and over. Now you don't need to do this if you don't want to. You can keep your arm by your side. Ribs in. Press through your feet. I know some people like to bring their arms up, both of them. Kind of a fan of keeping one hand on the thigh. Take a nice deep breath. Press down with both feet. Come up. Lengthen your legs. Exhale the left palm down and look over your left shoulder. Bring your head to center. Bend your front knee again, but what's different about transitioning to a warrior two is that the right hip lifts. So just notice how your hips can sway a little. Lift your right so it's level with your left this way. It's at an angle this way, it's good. And then sink a little bit into your back heel. Just play with that a little bit. And then we'll come into our warrior stance by extending both arms, looking out over the right fingertips. Energetically kind of pull your heels towards one another without actually moving, which will again fire up those glutes a bit. Hollow out your belly. Take a breath. Exhale, release your hands, come up. All right, so here's our transition to a high lunge. And if you want your blocks up by your right foot, perfect. I think I can grab them as I go. So bend that front knee, bring your right hand back to your right thigh, start to lift your back heel, and begin to rotate on the ball of the foot as you bring your left arm up and over. Stack your hands, draw your inner thighs together, bend your back knee a little bit, take a breath. If you like, you could bring your arms up or bring them home to your heart. Let's do a hip hinge here. Find the floor or the blocks, just your fingertips. Walk your hands to the inside of your right foot, pivot. Bring your blocks with you if you want. So again, wide-legged forward fold with your heels sinking a little deeper. Lift your belly. So as we have the strap on the bottom of the foot, same action, but different doorway. So let's transition to the other side. Lift both of your heels. Pivot on your feet. Come back to your high lunge. Lighter on your blocks if you don't want to round the upper back. And then we'll bring one hand up at a time to the side. Whoop, hold on. Bend your back knee a little, hollow out your belly. Stay right here. Draw those inner thighs a bit towards one another. Or you could bring your arms up or hold to your heart. And with a little hip hinge, again, remembering not to round, tip, find the blocks or the floor, lengthen your front leg, drop your back heel, angle your toes a little, bend your front knee, extend out through your right arm, push down through your feet, rise up, woo, and then release your hand. Take a moment. All right, side angle. Bend the left knee, adjust your feet a little bit. Draw your tailbone down towards your heel. Rotate your upper back. Stack your shoulders. Decide if you want to keep your arm down or up and over. Maybe your forearm would be okay as long as you're not collapsing side body. Stay for another breath. And again, energetically pull your heels a bit towards one another. Spread your toes. Push down with your feet. Inhale up. And as you exhale your right palm down, look over your right shoulder. Bring your head to center. Bend your left knee. And here's where we also lift the left hip. So they're level this way. Yeah, so fun. Then reach out through your arms. Lift your belly a little. Look out over your left fingertips. Find your warrior stance, nice and grounded through your feet, but open-hearted. And energetically pull your heels a bit towards one another. One more breath. Exhale the hands down. Lengthen both legs. Walk them in, heel toe, heel toe. Come to stand in stillness for a moment. Notice your breath. Excellent. So we'll transition at this point to our flow, the squeeze and soak. So if you weren't on last week, I want to take just a moment to remind us why we're doing this. So there's lymph nodes throughout the body. A big collection of them in the groin and a big collection of them in the armpits. So if we do a movement called squeeze and soak, where, let me demonstrate. So if we come down through a chair and tip over, and then as we push, so we're squeezing here, arms are long, and as we push and come up, we open up through all those spaces. And then we'll exhale home to the heart. So the one movement, there's lots of movements that we can add to that, but the movement we're going to do today are called step backs. So we'll need our blocks at the top of our mat. And if you like having a blanket when we do low lunge, then you might have something handy that you can pull beneath your knee. I know some people that in person have one of those cushy foam things for their knee that you can find like for gardeners. Might be handy. All right. So, let's just pause for a moment in our mountain pose. Bend the knees a little. And we'll inhale and open, reach to upward salute. So an upward salute, the hands come up over the shoulders, We'll bend the knees, bring the ribs in a little, but the skull softly back. And you don't have to have your hands all the way overhead. Just, again, listen to your body. And then exhale back into a chair. Brief visit as we tip over and find the blocks, and we hop them to either side of the feet. Let's step back, left leg. Toes tuck under, blocks are an extension of the arms, and even get light on your fingertips so we stay nice and open across the chest. Scoop that right hip under. Stay for a moment. Lengthen your front leg. Press into the big toe mound of that right foot if you're rolling to the outside edge. Bend the front knee, push off with your back foot. Step up, do a little squat pose. So here are the bellies on the thighs. Push down with your feet, push off your blocks. Slowly unfold as you come up and bring the arms overhead. Exhale home to your heart for a brief visit. Notice your breath. And again, inhale up. Exhale back to a chair. Going deeper into that squat position, tipping over, finding the blocks. Let's step back with the right leg. Set it up. Always time for that. Front knee over the heel. Scoop that left hip under. Get lighter on your blocks. Hollow out your belly a little bit. The back knee has a slight bend as well. And then inhale, lengthen. Steer your hips to neutral. Press a little bit more into the big toe mound of your left foot. Bend your front knee, step up. Do a squat pose here. The head is not hanging, so that will make you a little bit dizzy, because keep your head sort of level with the floor. And then push down off the floor, off your blocks. Slowly unfold and let your arms float up. Exhale home to your heart. Next option will be a low lunge. And we'll mix it up a little bit, so you can stay in high lunge if you want to. All right. Let's bring the back of the hands together for a moment. Just give the carpal tunnel part of the wrist a little stretch. Bend your knees. Inhale up. Open. Reach. Exhale, chair. Utkatasana, fierce pose. Tip over. Find your blocks. Left leg back. High lunge visit. Stay here if you want. Or low lunge, knee down. Onto the top of your foot if you like. Blocks are still a part of the equation. Square up your hips by scooping that right hip a little bit under. Stack your hands, get nice and regal. Hollow out your belly. Stay right here or bring your arms up. Pressing through both feet. Do a little hip hinge here. Still nice and long through the spine. Exhale your hands to your heart. A little bit of a humble bow. And then hands return to your blocks. Tuck your back toes under. Inhale, knee up. Lengthen both legs. Press to the big toe mound. Unlock both knees. And then we'll do a little movement called the seesaw. So exhale, bend the front knee. Scoop that hip under. Inhale, lengthen both legs. Try to keep your shoulders nice and broad. Exhale the lunge. And inhale the length. Exhale the lunge. Step up with your left foot. As many hops as you need to. Do a bit of a squat pose here. Belly on the thighs. Head lifted. Push down with your feet. Inhale nice and slow. Unfold. And rise up. Exhale home to your heart. Take a pause. We'll do that same thing on the other side of the body. And if you like giving your wrist a little stretch break, then bring the back of your hands together, shoulders down, bend your knees a little. Inhale up. And as you go, keep going. Reach, upward salute. Exhale into Uttanasana chair, holding those hips back. Tip over through a squat position. So we're nice and curled up here, or folded up here, I should say. And then we'll reach back with the right foot. First, we'll set up the high lunge, scooping that hip under, the left hip, getting nice and elongated. And then right knee down onto the top of the right foot, if that works. Stack your hands on your thigh. Scoop that hip under again. It likes to wander. Lift your belly, draw the pubic bone up. Stack your hands nice and regal. And decide that maybe this is enough. Or pressing through both feet. Release your palms up and over. Stay for a breath. Exhale your hands to your heart. And then a little hip hinge. So again, we're not rounding, we're tipping as we come forward. And we find our blocks. And we tuck the back toes under. Inhale, knee up. Set up a high lunge here, maybe on your fingertips or your fists if your wrists are getting tired. Scoop that left hip under. On the inhale, lengthen both legs. I'll try my fist for a while. And on your exhale, bend your front knee right over your heel. And again, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend the front knee. And this time, step up with your right foot. Do a squat pose, belly on the thighs. Push down with your feet. Unfold as you bring your arms slowly up and over. And exhale home to your heart. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. So we'll finish off this series by going back to the high lunge part. Same beginning though. If you like low lunge instead, you could do that while we're there. So inhale up. Exhale, chair, deeper. Holding in, there's your blocks. Inhale, left leg back. Toes tuck under. Square up your hips, bend your back knee, bend your front knee. And then lengthen your legs. Inhale. Exhale, bend your knees, step up into that squat pose. Push with your feet. Inhale up, unfold. Exhale, home to your heart. Take one full breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, rise up. Exhale through chair, forward fold, deeper. Inhale, left, right leg back. Other leg back. High lunge, lighter. Scoop your hip under. Shine out through your heart. Inhale, lengthen your front leg. Square up your hips. Exhale, bend your front knee. Bend your back knee a little. Push off with your back foot. Come up. A little bit of a squat pose. Push down with your feet. Rise up. Rise and shine. And exhale, home to your heart. Take a pause, one full breath. And again, inhale up. Exhale through chair. Tip over. There's the blocks. Right leg. Let's do left leg back. High lunge. Let's do a low lunge. Stack your fists. Stack your palms onto the top of your back foot. Lift your belly. Release your arms. Inhale up if you want. Exhale, hold. Hands in front of the heart. A little hip hinge. Without rounding the shoulders. Find your blocks. Tuck your back toes under. Knee up. Lengthen. Step up. Do a bit of a squat pose. Push down with your feet. Rise up. Unfold. One more to go. Exhale to your heart. Take a pause. Notice your heartbeat, your breath, the vitality of your body. Inhale up. Exhale into Uttanasana chair. And then tip and find your blocks on either side of your feet. Step back, right leg, high lunge or low lunge. On the top of your back foot, get regal with your hands stacked on your thigh. Lift your belly. Stay right here or open. Inhale up, ribs in. Pressing through both feet, drawing your inner thighs a bit towards one another. Exhale, home to your heart. Hip hinge, so without rounding, tip your pelvis. A little bit of a humble bow of your lunge. Find your blocks. Tuck your back toes. Inhale, knee up. Lengthen both legs. Press a little bit more into the big toe mound if you're rolling to the outside of your foot. Your head is not hanging. Bend your front knee. Push off with your back foot. Step up. Bit of a squat pose. Pushing down with your feet. Rise up. And exhale home to your heart. Let's take a moment here. Perhaps even notice the rhythm of your heartbeat behind your thumbs. And if you don't, just imagine it's there. Breath is moving freely. Imagine just a little sparkle of glitter all around your body. And we'll make our way down because we do want to do an inversion where we tip our feet up to, again, continue to move the lymph through the body. So we'll make our way down to the mat. And if you've had enough chair pose, you can kind of find your way back a different way. Or just one more. Exhale. Tip over. One knee at a time. You'll need a yoga block of some kind or a rolled blanket of some kind as we move on in our practice. All right, so let's come on to the back. Back to constructive rest pose. So even laying on the floor, if standing poses aren't quite for you, you can still have that sense of squeeze and soak laying on the floor. So bring your knees in, hug them, and then float your feet up, float your arms up, drop your shoulders, lower your thumbs back a little, lower your legs back down a little, press your belly towards your spine, and then exhale, hug in. This is that squeeze and soak again from a different doorway. Inhale up, lower, exhale, hug in. One more like that. Inhale up, hands and feet, shoulders down, open, press your belly straight down to your pelvis is attached to your yoga mat, and then exhale in, squeeze and soak. Circle your knees around and go both directions and bring one foot at a time to the floor. So oftentimes we'll use a block for, let me demonstrate, to lift the hips into supported bridge. So we're in a bridge, but there's not a lot of effort to do this pose. But this could be the segue into our, sometimes called waterfall, with the feet floating up. And if you feel like the block is too much of a height for your low back and it's not really comfortable, let me give you an option. So you could take a rolled blanket like this. I need to re-roll mine up a little tighter. This is a pretty dense cotton blanket, so it kind of works almost like a bolster. That you could slide this blanket behind your low back. And you're not going to be elevated quite as high, but there's still a little bit of lift here. So again, as we float the feet up, get your pelvis to somewhat neutral on whatever you're resting on. And the hips are slightly elevated. The back of the hands to the floor, palms up. So this gives us a doorway in to gravity doing the work for us. So with the hips elevated, all the lymph is now moving to the center line of the body into the thoracic duct. We bring our arms up for a moment, reach them a little bit behind us, stretching and open the armpits. And then we can bring them back. And just let the hands rest on your belly, if you like. So we're going to linger. So I want to, as you rest and let gravity work for you, I want to recommend for anyone on today that might have lymphedema. So in your legs, this is great. Some people have lymphedema in their legs. If you have lymphedema in an arm, then what you can do, let's just say I have lymphedema in my left arm, even though I have it in my right. You could elevate your arm on a block like this. So again, we're not reaching down, so gravity's going to take the arm flow this way. And if we elevate the arm, then it's not going to happen quite as much. And you can use a bolster or anything for this when you come to rest. All right, so we've been here a little while. Feels pretty good to be upside down. And when you're ready from here, you could linger longer. And if you scoot your bottom up towards a wall and have your feet resting on the wall, it's called legs up the wall, and you can stay there for so long. And there's many benefits, not just to the lymphatic system, but to the nervous system. It's very soothing. So you could try that. And let's bend one knee once we're here. And then bend the other. Move this block away. I just want to demonstrate how you can lift your arm off the floor and bring one knee down at a time, one foot down at a time. Lift your hips, take the block or the blanket away, and slowly release. So if you are going into the classic Shavasana from there, you could take a blanket behind your knees. That's nice. You could also take, if you're not using a blanket, you could take your flat blocks, one behind each thigh, with your legs nice and wide, and the blocks at a little bit of an angle. And sometimes, even though it feels really nice to have the weight of a blanket on the lap, not so much for warmth, but more a sense of calming or security or comfort. And again, depending on where you are in your journey, you could have your hands resting there. If you still want to use like a bolster or a block or some other pillow beneath your lymph arm, if you have lymphedema there, you can slide it under that arm. And then just relax. So this is the moment, the pause, where we integrate into our bodies all the strength building, the bone density practice, how we integrate the movement of the flow through our bodies. Ah, beautiful. One more deep breath. And linger here a little longer if you have the time or you'd like to. And if you're ready to move on, let's move the blanket if you have it on your lap. Bend one knee at a time, bring your feet to the floor. Now this is something I've just started not too long ago. So I do a lot of reading and focusing on not rounding the shoulders too much, because we do that throughout the day already. So even coming off the floor, off our back body, we might find we're hunching the upper back shoulders. So I've been trying this, is to take a block into the arm. That's when we roll to the side, it's going to be the top shoulder. And then we take the block down. And then as we push, I like to take this hand behind my head. And as we push and come up, the shoulders stay pretty stacked. They don't round too much because the hand meets the block instead of the floor. It's just a simple thing, but it kind of reminds me of what I'm trying to focus on a little bit more. So let's come to sit in a way that works for you. I feel so invigorated after that. So come to sit where your pelvis is level, shoulders are broad, reach your fingers out, turn your palms up. And as we started our practice today, inhale up, but keep going. Let your hands meet. And exhale, peace to the mind, and strength and health to the body, love and compassion to the heart. With a little hip hinge here again, so we're not rounding, we're just tipping. We can bow to one another and honor the light within. Namaste. Again, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you. And I'm really loving this class.